This video is about my personal experience with homelessness in Los Angeles and a reaction to the comments I see all over YouTube from people who do not live in Los Angeles, that those of us who do live in Los Angeles are not doing enough to personally help the homeless. So a couple of months ago, I posted a video about why a lot of people are leaving Los Angeles. I ended that video by saying that I wasn't going to leave Los Angeles, but I understood why a lot of people were. Now, this video probably has more comments than any other video I have ever made, which is incredible because I have some videos with quite a lot of comments. Now, some of those comments were from smart people who criticized me for not being kinder to the homeless, for not being more compassionate to the homeless, and saying that this sort of surprised them because I seem like a compassionate person. Now, this kind of upset me because I actually have a great deal of respect for the homeless, and they have taught me a lot in my time living in Los Angeles. And some of those lessons I would like to share with you today. So, when I first got to LA about 10 years ago, I started volunteering at homeless shelters because it was part of my church. I no longer go to that church, but that's going to be a different video entirely. Before this current epidemic really popped off, I was sort of on the peripheral of the scene. I was watching and noticing the changes that were going on. And I was around the homeless. A lot of them were really cool. And I got to talk to a lot of them. Believe it or not, they're not monsters. They're not all drug fiends. They're not all crazy. A lot of them can carry on a conversation. They just happen to be homeless. Anyway, here are some of my personal stories as to why I became such a cynical and jaded individual, as people accused me of in my last video. Now, this was a few years back. I was lost in downtown Los Angeles. I was attending a gallery opening where one of my paintings was going to be hanging, and I couldn't find the gallery. I think I was only 1 or 2 blocks off. And a really nice young gentleman came up to me and said, "Hey, you look lost. Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for this gallery." And he said, "Oh, I know exactly where that is." And he walked me to the door. He was so polite. He asked me whereabouts in the city I lived, and I explained that I lived in the Valley. And he said, "Oh," and I asked him where he lived, and he told me that he lived under a nearby bridge. And I couldn't believe it, how someone so clean and well-spoken and kind could also be homeless. But that's just the way things were then. The housing prices were starting to go up. A lot of people come here and they don't expect that things will be so expensive and jobs will be so hard to come by, and they're homeless for a few years. And then they get out of it, and then they're fine. That's the story a lot of people don't tell you about the homeless in Los Angeles, is that it's temporary for many of them. They do not have underlying mental illnesses. They do not have drug addictions, and they're going to be fine soon. They're just down on their luck right now. Now, that having been said, that doesn't apply to all of the homeless in Los Angeles, especially now. Now, I mentioned that I used to volunteer at a soup kitchen in Los Angeles. I'm not going to say which one, but I volunteered at that soup kitchen for 5 years with my church. Different organizations had a night where they would bring in food and we would feed the people who came in. A lot of these people were really cool. I got to talking to them. Some people were down on their luck. Some had medical problems that bankrupted them, or they were not able to work. But they were well-spoken people who could explain to me their problem. We could joke around. I could give them their food, and then that would be it. In fact, there was one really nice guy who used to come in. He was so funny, this big black guy. He would make us laugh every single time, and I really liked this guy. I really, really did. I just had such a good energy about him. And then one day, actually the last day that I volunteered at the soup kitchen, another man came up to him, and this man seemed like he was on drugs. I don't know, maybe he had a mental illness, and he accused the gentleman of having stolen his bag. And the guy's like, "I don't know anything about that. I do not have your bag." And this guy said, "Oh, you have my bag." And he said, "No, look, I don't have your bag. Look at all my things. They're all right here." But this other gentleman was so unhappy with my friend that he punched him repeatedly in the face, right in front of me, and made him bleed everywhere. And we closed down the kitchen, and the security came in and separated them. I just felt horrible that my friend was humiliated like this by someone who was clearly not in his right mind, and that it turned into violence, and he was injured. And I don't know, I think that was the last day where I said, okay, I need to take a step back. The vibe of the kitchen was already starting to change. It went from people who were down on their luck. It just seemed like regular people coming in to the soup kitchen at first. For the most part, they were really trying. They were really trying to be part of society, and this was just a step, and I was there to help them, and they were there to make me laugh, and it was cool. And then by this time, the energy sort of changed so that it was a little bit more dangerous. And then my friend couldn't even sit there and eat his dinner without getting assaulted. I don't know what happened to him. I hope he turned out okay. I hope he got off of the streets. I really do. So that was it for my time at the soup kitchen. I also left my church, so I no longer went in with the church group. I continued to see all kinds of people on the metro and around the city, of course. So that's fine. That was sort of my interaction with the homeless until a few years ago. It was around Christmas time, and I was coming back to my house. I drove by the CVS over on Lancashire. As many of you know from online, is kind of a rough area. I don't know how it's a rough area. It's right around the corner. The rents are incredibly high, but it's still a pretty rough CVS. Anyway, I'm driving by, and I've got Christmas cookies in the back seat, and I've got some money in my wallet. Just a typical Christmas time day. Anyway, I drive by, and I see a young woman about my age, and she's wearing a towel wrapped around her. And I said, oh my God, something terrible has happened to this girl. Now, I kept driving because I'm like, it's none of your business, Maya. This is none of your business. Why do you always have to make things your business, Maya? And by the time I finished my thought, I had already turned around and pulled into the parking lot next to her. Because of course I did. Why? Why wouldn't I? Doesn't make any sense, but I did. I'm thinking, my goodness, this young woman has probably been raped. She may need a ride to the hospital. She certainly needs to use somebody's phone to call for help. I'll wait with her for the police, and she can have a cookie, and maybe I can give her $5. I don't know, whatever I can do to help this young woman, because if that were me, I would really want someone to stop and help me. So I get out of my car and I say, Miss, do you need help? Now, she's on drugs at this point, so she starts screaming at me that I am retarded. She's like, this retarded girl's retarded, I can't believe. And I was like, okay, Miss, do you need help? And then she screams and calls me a retard. And she's very aggressive at this point. And I realized if I tried to help her or get any closer to her, she might actually hurt me. And of course, I'm not gonna fight with a woman in a sheet. That's sort of the trump card. If you're naked, most people are not going to fight you or tussle with you or whatever. I wanted to give her a Christmas cookie and wait for the police with her. So I got back into my car. And I realized that this woman had her own wisdom to impart upon me. And that wisdom was that I was being retarded. Oh my God, I'm gonna be a hero. I'm gonna help this young girl. We're gonna wait for the cops and have a girl moment and have Christmas cookies and give her a little bit of money. Maybe she'll go to a Starbucks later. Maybe she'll call her parents and then they'll send for her and she'll go home and have a husband and 2.5 kids. Girl, you retarded. This girl is on drugs and she is hostile, and you better get back in your car and go home. That is exactly what I did. I gave those Christmas cookies to my neighbor. I spent that $5 on myself. And that is the last time I have ever pulled over for a homeless person in Los Angeles. I pay my taxes, and I figure the professionals can handle it. The problem is that too often, the professionals do not handle it. They wait for 3 weeks before the election. They clean up the sidewalks a little bit, and then 3 weeks after the election, it will be the same way it was before. I'm not being overly critical of anyone. I am just saying that this problem is a lot more complicated than, well, maybe you should help them. I am not a professional. I can no longer just give them meals because a lot of people actually poison the meals they give to the homeless. So you can't just go to Skid Row and give out food anymore. A smart homeless person won't eat it. And that's where we are. This isn't just my video. Every single video about the homeless in Los Angeles, somebody is in the comment section saying that the people of Los Angeles should help them. No, please do not get out of your car and try to help them. Please don't do that. It is not in your best interest to put yourself in harm's way when you're paying 13.5 and now they want to make it 16% taxes for them to be helped. by professional people whose job it is to help them. Now, you can try. If you have a church group that's working with the city, I definitely suggest you volunteer time or money or whatever you can. But to just think that because you have a cell phone and some goodwill, you're going to make a dent in the problem and not end up getting shanked. I got news for you. And please stop posting on people's videos to go help them. They are not being insensitive by videotaping them and not helping them. What they're doing is spreading awareness so that at least the people in City Hall are shamed enough to do the job that they're being paid to do. Anyway, that's my story. Subscribe!